This guy Takumi was suddenly enveloped by light. Then he's welcomed by the Lady Nolan, who tells him he has been summoned to Midgard by the Otherworlder's summoning spell. But then she apologizes to him, because he was caught up in a summoning that was meant for other people. The Otherworlder's summoning selects people from a variety of worlds to go to Midgard, and Takumi was excluded from the list, but somehow managed to be summoned anyway. The spell was very dangerous, because the laws of that world and Earth were too different, and it could cause the collapse of Midgard. That is why it was forbidden, but a certain nation activated it. Lady Nolan tried to intervene, but Takumi was summoned anyway. However, he was the only one there, since the people who were supposed to be summoned were at the place the spell was activated, the Holy Sidonia Empire. And to make things worse, Takumi can't go back to Earth, because Nolan made sure the spell could not be used a second time, which means he's stuck there, and he doesn't even have a body anymore. She suggests he gives up and starts living as a resident of Midgard. He asks if he can go to Sidonia then, but she says they would treat him badly because he wasn't a target of the summoning. So she says she's sending him someplace else with her super support, and he will have her blessing, since this is a fantasy world. He's worried about the monsters, but that's what the super support is for. Nolan asks Takumi to summon his status, and they say he's an unemployed 17-year-old, which doesn't make sense to him, because he was a 40-year-old salaryman. But she says he's going to have to choose another job now. There are two types of jobs: the combat ones, which are swordsman, mage, knight, thief, and hunter, and the production ones, herbalist, alchemist, blacksmith, carpenter, etc. Takumi doesn't want trouble, so he opts for the production jobs. Nolan says that if he uses his skills through actions, he will be able to get a job. Since he wants a production job, she will bless him with useful spells, alongside recovery magic and some other things. She blesses him and wishes him good luck on his new life in the continent of Asgard, and Takumi is shoved into the ground without further explanation from the lady. He gets up and checks his reflection on the water, and he thinks he looks hot. He decides to leave the past behind for good and goes check on his items. There's food, money, and a knife. It could be weird if people saw the goddess's blessing, so he hides it alongside his item box. He wants to try magic next, but thinks it is dangerous to use fire magic in the wild, so he uses water ball, wind cutter, and rock ball. It's time to find a village, but in the way, he finds a good piece of wood that people use for weapons, so he wants to try his blacksmithing skills. He pictures a spear and starts modeling, and it works perfectly. He also finds out that the place is beaming with herbs and mushrooms useful for potions and poisons, and collects a lot of them, so many that it can't fit in his bag. Then he remembers that he has an infinite item box that can preserve the items forever, and drops it all in there. Suddenly, a little girl comes running asking for help, because she was being chased by a giant carnivorous rabbit, and Takumi kills it with one hit to the head. He thinks he won because of Lady Nolan's blessing, but this was actually all him. He gets a warrior job, but he complains that is not what he wants. The little girl thanks him and says she's from the board village, and she got lost while looking for medicinal herbs. Takumi asks to go with her, and she tells him to take the rabbit's carcass, because the meat is really good. The girl, who introduces herself as Molly, sees him using the item box, and he gets worried because it was supposed to be concealed. Meanwhile, in the Holy Sidonia Empire, we see the people who were actually supposed to be summoned to that world. A woman shows up, welcoming them and saying they are in another world entirely. She says they want to use their power as heroes to save that world, and she's going to explain everything later. She is Elizabeth, the first empress of the Holy Sidonia Empire. Then, Akane realizes she was blessed by Lady Nolan with a revelation skill, and if she follows her instincts, she will naturally arrive at the correct response. Using the skill, she is sure Elizabeth is dangerous and cannot be trusted. Back in Board Village, Molly's parents thank Takumi for rescuing her. They are the hunter Banga and his wife Martha. Takumi wonders if he can stay at the village for a while, and they are happy to have him there. The village is bountiful with ingredients for medicines, and the blacksmith Boban, who are also there, says there is an ore vein nearby, and Takumi gets really excited about it. But unfortunately, the village doesn't have an inn, so Boban offers to build a house for him. They find a small lot, but it's plenty enough. Before the workers start building the house, Takumi uses earth magic to level the ground, draining most of his mana. Everyone is surprised he can use magic, and he thinks he might have done something weird, but they don't seem to care. Everyone starts working, and the house is quickly finished. Thanks to his variety of skills, Takumi managed to get a whole set of furniture for the house, and now he wants to change his job. He messes with his status and sets his main job as Alchemist. Alongside Boban, he mined iron, silver, copper, and even magic iron ore, which is imbued with mana. He is excited to start using alchemy and turn the ore into ingots. And, since that is a fantasy world, he doesn't even need a furnace. Alchemy is made of 5 techniques: decomposition, extraction, pulverization, synthesis, and recomposition. He just has to extract the iron ore and use earth magic through it. It works perfectly, but it takes a lot of mana to do it. He's eager to make ingots from all ores, because there's a lot of things he wants to make with them. Later, Molly comes to bring Takumi his dinner and finds him passed out on the ground from using too much mana. He gets scolded by Martha and Bunga gives him a healing potion so he can get right back to work. But he has to slow down because now Martha and Molly are always checking on him. He extracted many different ores and was able to craft a lot of utensils and tools, and his alchemy levels skyrocketed. Then he started helping Bobon craft weapons with his fire magic, and the blacksmith says it was the finest piece he had ever smithed. Takumi's blacksmith level is even higher than his alchemy, and he doesn't get why that is the case. Now it's time Takumi learns potion making with the herbs he collected. He gets some basic potions from Bunga so he can study them and starts experimenting, and his weird face indicates he's really enjoying it. The final result is a bit different from the one he got from Bunga, and he wonders if it's because he purified the water with magic. Not yet satisfied, he now wants to gain poison resistance and starts eating poisonous herbs, but now he's at his limit. Thankfully, this experience helped him learn purification magic, and he is able to heal. Before he's fully recovered, he gets face to face with a huge armored bear. None of his weapons can pierce its hide, and even his magic is not helpful. He sees another monster behind him, a poison spider, but it looks injured. When the boar rushes forward, the spider jumps on it to protect Takumi and he avoids the attack. When he thinks he's out of options, he gets an idea. The boar rushes at him again. He jumps at the last second and uses his alchemy's decompose skill on the beast's head, blowing up its brain. He goes to the poison spider and realizes it tried to help him, so he uses cure on it as well. Before he can leave, he receives the tame ability, and the spider wants to be his pet. He's not sure at first, but the spider talks to him and says it wants to go with him. So he decides to call her Maple because of the pattern on her back. Then Maple evolves and gets bigger, and her broken leg grows back. Back at the village, Takumi summons the boar's carcass, and everyone is scared of Maple, but he explains she is his new pet. They all think it's weird, because apparently no one can tame insect monsters, but he managed to do it anyway. Takumi invites everyone to eat the boar meat with him, and they get the whole village together to feast. Bunga says that if Takumi heads to Bolton, the closest big city, he can sell the boar's leftover hide. Everyone is happy with Takumi there, because the village has become brighter with his presence. But they know he's not the kind of person that stays in such a small village forever. Meanwhile, somewhere else, a beautiful girl looks at the window while her maid folds her clothes. Lady Nolan was observing Takumi and seeing he was doing well, when another angel comes and asks what she was expecting from him. She gave Takumi her blessing and a special body, but most importantly, she sent him 1 whole year into the past, 1 year before the Holy Sidonia Empire activated their summoning spell. But Lady Nolan says that there were no particular meaning behind all that. Takumi wakes up and sees that Maple had covered him and the whole house with her web. The spider apologizes, but she says he has been too busy with his potion making, and she was feeling lonely. So, Takumi decides he's going to take a break from work and play with her. Martha comes in and gets scared with the spider on top of him, but he says it's fine. She was not trying to eat him. She sees the spider silk and gets a weird look on her eye. Spider silk is a luxury item and the nobles always buy everything, but now she has enough to make clothes. Martha asks Maple to make silk with more elasticity, and she is actually able to communicate with the spider. Takumi was supposed to play with her, but now she says she is busy helping Martha, so he decides to do what he has to do. It's been almost a month since he came to the village. He wants to go to the city and study alchemy, but he doesn't know how to say that to the people, because they have been so kind to him since the beginning. Boban had made some armor for him, but he still needs to reinforce the soles and toes of the boots so he can kick things. He says he's just a producer, but Boban says that there is not a single producer who wanders a forest full of monsters alone. Bunga shows up to see the armor, and both of them say the village will be lonely without Takumi. They know he's going to move on somewhere else, because he needs to be where the supply and demand are higher, so his production job can grow. A trader is coming from Bolton the week after, and they already arranged for Takumi to ride on his carriage when he leaves for the city. The boy doesn't know how to thank them for the help. Later, he finds Martha, who is disposing of the innards of a horned rabbit that Bunga hunted. They are the most delicious part, but the villagers don't have the means to process it and remove diseases and parasites, so they have to throw it away. But Takumi can just use purification magic on it and make it edible. Martha is surprised that he can use light magic and advises him to keep quiet about it. Only a few people can use light magic. It's so rare that the ones with that skill can make a living out of it. The villagers won't mind, but he should be careful with it when he goes outside. Before he leaves for Bolton, he wants to repay everything that the village did for him, so he helps with its development, enforcing the borders and improving the infrastructure. The trader from Bolton, Papek, arrives with Banga's order, and Takumi is ready to leave. Before he leaves, he hands Banga a basic healing potion, and says that there are 100 more in his house, ready to be distributed for the people if they need them. Papek asks to see the potion, and is amazed by the quality and purity of the liquid. The others arrive with a gift for Takumi, a cloak they had made together using maple silk, and he loves it. He thanks them for everything and enters the carriage with tears in his eyes, saying that the board village is his hometown. Even the trader and a guy in the carriage are emotional, since it looks like Takumi was really loved in the village. The others who are traveling with Papek are his bodyguards, a rank C party called Lion Fang. They are Heath, Rio, and Boger. Rio wants to know why Takumi was holding his bag so close, and he tells him about Maple. They are surprised by the fact that he had tamed a killer spider, and Rio wants to see her. But Maple gets startled and jumps at him. They are worried she might start fearing humans, but she was already on Boger's lap. Papek calls Takumi and asks if he has more potions in stock, because he wants to buy some from him. But they suddenly have to stop because there are many goblins on their way. The Lion Fang jumps out and quickly deals with him, while Papek just sits there shaking with fear. The others dissect the goblins to collect their magic stones, and they get back on the road. The journey continued without any other incident, and 3 days later, they arrived in Bolton, in the kingdom of Barkula, and everything looked so new to Takumi, since it was the first big city he visited. They went to the Adventurers Guild so that Lion Fang could report their escort mission, and they told Takumi that he needed to register with the guild so he could stay in the city and register Maple as his pet. He wanted to register in an Alchemist guild, but Bolton unfortunately didn't have one. The receptionist, Hans, whispers to him that many people register with the Adventurers Guild so they can use their card as identification, and they can keep it as long as they accept one simple mission per month. Takumi doesn't mind getting the lowest rank, so he registers himself and Maple with the guild. He goes to discuss selling his potions to Papek, saying he has roughly 100 of each in stock. Papek offers 10 silver for each healing and stamina potion, and 50 silver for each mana potion. Takumi thinks that it is a lot of money and asks him if it isn't too much, but Papek says he's offering a lower price than usual, because Takumi still hasn't made a name for himself. He thinks Papek might have an ulterior motive, but he doesn't look like the kind of guy who would deceive someone. Papek wants to discuss residence, because Takumi might need a house with a workshop, but he says he doesn't have money to buy a house. Then Papek says that if he doesn't mind renting, there is a house he can show him, so he calls his servant Thomas and asks him to take Takumi there. The house is actually a huge mansion, but Thomas says the rent is only 1 gold and 50 silver a month, which sounds too cheap to be true, but Thomas really recommends it, and Takumi can use the storehouse as a workshop, and his potion contract pays more than enough for him to afford it, so he accepts the offer, which makes Maple really happy. Thomas says he can move in the next day, but he is curious about a bad smell in the city. Thomas says it is from the sewage. The nobles purify the sewage from their mansions using magic devices, but the rest of the city doesn't have that, because they need to be excavated from dungeons, which makes them too expensive. Sometimes they hire priests to purify them, but it's not enough. The next day, Takumi and Maple move to their new home. He needs to repair the outer walls, but there is something he needs to make first. He mixes quartz with clay that he bought from Papek, uses magic to shape it, adds heat, controls the temperature, uses space-time magic to shorten the process, stabilize it with alchemy, and it's done. The process consumes a whole lot of mana, but it was worth it, because now he has a toilet, and he's really happy with it because it is a must-have. He hears Papek screaming and runs to help, only to see that Maple had enveloped him with silk. She says she wanted to entertain him, but Takumi scolds her, saying that only the kids would enjoy it. He was wrong though, because Papek was almost falling asleep inside the comforting texture of the silk. Takumi apologizes and Papek asks to use his restroom, but when he enters the room, he is scared by the toilet, and Takumi explains that it is attached to a magical device that purifies their business into clean water and inorganic material. Papek realizes that Takumi has an aptitude for light magic, and he asks him to keep quiet about it. He wants Takumi to build 100 more of those toilets, and he says he could do it with enough materials, but he will need extra hands for it, and Papek recommends getting a contract with a slave, because he's going to need someone bound to secrecy because of his light magic. The Church of the Divine Light, who heads the Holy Sidonia Empire, insists that those with aptitude for light magic are chosen by God, and they profit from exploiting their healing magic. They will not ignore a commoner using light magic, so Takumi needs a slave to work for him. But he'd rather work alone than use a slave, because the term does not leave a good impression. But before they can keep discussing, his guild card starts glowing with a message. He needs to complete a mission within the first month of registering with the guild, so he has to go to the guild before the deadline. Papek asks him if he has some free time, and takes him to the Mulan Company, the most trustworthy slave trader in Bolton. While Takumi waits for Papek, he enters the company's garden and looks around. He looks at the balcony and sees a beautiful elf girl sitting there, staring at him. He's shocked with her beauty, but she just tells him to go home, and he doesn't understand. Well, that was the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Also, hit the notification bell so you won't miss anything new. And I'll see you on the next video. Bye bye.